Welcome, noble friends and seekers of Middle-earth's deepest lore. Today we embark on a journey far beyond the familiar tales of the Shire or the halls of Gondor. We delve into the shadowed mists of the First Age, where legends were forged in blood and valor, into the heart of Beleriand, where the House of Hador stood tall among the greatest of mortal heroes. This is the saga of courage and tragedy, of defiance against the dark power that once sought to shroud all the world in shadow. Before the rise of Gondor, before the whispers of Numenor, there were the Edain, the noble men who first allied with the elves in the wars against Morgoth, the dark enemy of the world. Among them, none shone brighter nor fell with greater tragedy than the House of Hador, known for their valor and tragic destiny. They were not kings of vast realms, but warriors of unyielding spirit, standing shoulder to shoulder with the Eldar in the defense of all that was fair and free. Their story begins in the year 310 of the First Age, when Hador Lorindol was granted lordship over Dor Lomin by Fingolfin, the High King of the Noldor. Imagine, if you will, vast green lands stretching beneath the arid Wethrin, crowned by snow and shadow. Hador, golden-hayed and mighty, was not merely a leader of men, but a symbol of hope in an age darkened by endless war. His loyalty to the elves of the Noldor was unwavering, and under his leadership his house became renowned for its bravery and strength in battle. But this tale is not merely of Hador's might. It is a lineage woven with sorrow and unrelenting defiance. His sons, Galdor the Tall and Gandor, carried forward their father's legacy. Galdor, who succeeded Hador after his fall in battle in 455 of the First Age, was a figure carved from the very stone of the arid Wethrin. Resilient and steadfast, yet even as Hador's house rose in renown, doom loomed ever nearer. This doom would manifest most cruelly in Galdor's own son, Hurin Thalion, the greatest mortal hero of his age, renowned not only for his valor but for his unmatched endurance against the shadow of Morgoth. In the fateful year 472 of the First Age, Hurin fought in the Nirnaeth ar Noediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. It was a name well earned, for in that dreadful clash, treachery and overwhelming darkness crushed the hopes of elves and men alike. Yet Hurin did not yield. As others fell around him, he stood defiant, wielding his axe with fury and courage until he was captured by Morgoth himself. But even in the dungeons of Angand, Hurin's will was unbroken. His defiance was legend. Morgoth, in his malice, cursed Hurin's line with a fate of unending sorrow. A curse that would unravel with cruel precision through his children Turin, Tur, Ambar, and Ninor Niniel. As told in The Children of Hurin, Turin's story is one of the most heart-wrenching tragedies in all of Tolkien's legendarium. Gifted with prowess in battle, but cursed by fate, Turin's life was a relentless struggle against doom itself. Raised in Doriath under the protection of King Thingol, his life was marked by heroism tainted with sorrow. Driven by a desire to overcome the shadow cast upon his house, yet every victory seemed to spiral toward deeper despair, every choice twisted by Morgoth's curse. But the sorrow of the House of Hador was not merely a tale of loss. It was a testament to unbreakable spirit. Even as Turin's life ended in tragedy and Hurin returned from captivity broken and embittered, the legacy of defiance remained. In the face of overwhelming darkness, the House of Hador embodied the mortal courage that even the might of Morgoth could not extinguish. The shadow cast by Morgoth upon the House of Hador was not a mere stroke of ill fortune. It was a deliberate cruelty, a curse born from Hurin's defiance upon the peaks of Howden Endegen, where he slew countless foes before being captured. Bound in the fortress of Angand, Hurin was forced to witness, through Morgoth's dark sorcery, the unraveling of his kin's fate. His eyes were cursed to behold every misstep and sorrow of his children, powerless to intervene. It was not death that Morgoth dealt him, but a far crueler punishment, one of despair, degradation, and the slow poisoning of hope. Turin Turambar, the son of Hurin, inherited not just his father's valor but also the weight of that curse. From his earliest days, doom seemed to pursue him like a shadow that could not be outrun. Raised in Doriath under the protection of King Thingol, he was gifted in arms and mighty of stature. But fate would twist every triumph into tragedy. His friendship with Beleg Strongbow, a mighty elf of Doriath, was one of loyalty and brotherhood, until misfortune drove Turin to slay Beleg in a cruel accident, mistaking his friend for an enemy in the dark of night. This act would mark Turin with a grief that never faded, a scar upon his soul deeper than any blade could carve. In Nargothrond, Turin rose to command as a leader of men and elves alike. He was a beacon of hope in a realm already trembling under the threat of Morgoth's forces. Yet even here, pride and fate conspired to bring ruin. Against the council of Ulmo, the Lord of Waters, Turin's will led Nargothrond to confront Morgoth directly. This act of defiance awakened the wrath of Glaurung, the father of dragons, who descended upon Nargothrond with fire and malice. The mighty halls of the city were laid to ruin, its people slain or scattered, and Turin's pride became the herald of its downfall. Yet the cruelest stroke came not through the sword but through deception. Glaurung's gaze bewitched Turin, clouding his mind with falsehoods and driving him from aiding his mother Morrowind and his sister Nienor. Worse still, Nienor herself fell victim to the dragon's spell, her memory erased, and in tragic ignorance she came to love Turin, her own brother. Their union, unknowingly forged in sorrow, became the darkest fruit of Morgoth's curse. When the truth was unveiled, Nienor's despair led her to cast herself into the waters of Teglin, and Turin, in his grief and horror, took his own life upon his black blade, Gurthang. Yet the tale of Húrin's house did not end with Turin's fall. Húrin himself, released from Morgoth's grasp after years of torment, returned to a world shattered by loss. His heart, burdened with the knowledge of his children's fates, carried no joy in freedom. In a bitter final act, he cast the Norglemir, an ancient dwarven necklace adorned with a Silmaril, before the ruins of Doriath, as both a gift and a curse, for by then sorrow and pride had twisted his heart beyond healing. His end was shrouded in silence, a mortal hero broken not by the sword, but by the weight of despair and the cruelty of the Valar's silence in the face of Morgoth's wrath. The legacy of the House of Hador did not vanish with the deaths of Húrin and Turin, nor did Morgoth's curse erase the echoes of their valor. Though their lineage seemed broken, the memory of their deeds became woven into the very fabric of Beleriand's history. Tales whispered among elves and men alike, stories of mortal courage that stood defiant against the might of the dark enemy. The sorrow of their downfall was profound, yet it carried with it an enduring testament that even in the face of inevitable doom, the will of men could burn brightly, defying the darkest of fates. Their courage was not without purpose. The sacrifices of Húrin and his kin weakened Morgoth's grip on Beleriand in ways unseen by mortal eyes. Every act of resistance, every battle fought, and every sorrow endured drew Morgoth's gaze away from other threats gathering in the shadows. It was these diversions that allowed other heroes like Eärendil the Mariner, himself descended from the Eddin through the House of Hador's distant kin, to rise and bring hope back into the world. Eärendil's journey would later lead to the intervention of the Valar, bringing about Morgoth's final defeat. The doom borne by Húrin's house was not in vain. Their suffering paved the way for Arda's salvation. The courage of the House of Hador echoed beyond the ruin of Beleriand. After Morgoth's defeat in 583 of the First Age, the remnants of the Edain, including those of Hador's people, were granted a new destiny. The Valar, moved by their loyalty and sacrifice, gifted them the island of Númenor, rising from the sea as a sanctuary and reward for their faithfulness. In this great realm, the blood of Hador flowed through many noble houses, including that of Elros, the first king of Númenor, a descendant of Eärendil, whose lineage carried both mortal and elven heritage. The courage of the House of Hador thus became the foundation of Númenor's greatness. Yet even the proud legacy of Númenor was not free from shadow. The doom that once haunted the House of Hador seemed to echo faintly in the pride and fall of the Númenorians. Though distant, the arrogance that led to Númenor's downfall under Al-Pharazôn mirrored in some tragic way the pride that had once brought Turin's ruin. The shadow of Morgoth lingered in subtle ways, his malice seeping into the hearts of men through whispers of fear and desire for immortality. It was a reminder that no great house, no matter how noble, was entirely free from the shadows of the past. And yet, from the ashes of Numenor's fall, a final remnant of Hador's legacy endured. Elendil the Tall, a descendant of those ancient heroes, led the faithful across the sea to Middle-earth, founding the kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor. The blood of Hador still ran strong in his veins, a living testament to the courage and resilience of the Edain. Through Elendil's line, the spirit of Húrin's house survived, flowing onward through Isildur, Anarion, and eventually to Aragorn, who would reclaim the throne of Gondor in the Third Age. Thus, the bravery of a mortal house from the First Age became the cornerstone of Middle-earth's greatest kingdoms. The enduring legacy of the House of Hador rippled through the Second Age, carried by the bloodlines of Númenor's noblest houses. Elendil, heir of the faithful, embodied the resilience and wisdom of his ancient forebears. When Númenor fell into ruin under the weight of pride and Sauron's corruption, it was Elendil who preserved the honor of his people. His survival was no mere chance. It was the culmination of Hador's legacy of endurance. As his ships reached the shores of Middle-earth in 3,319 of the Second Age, Elendil established the realms of Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south, planting the seeds of hope for the free peoples. Yet, as with the House of Hador's earlier tales, tragedy shadowed triumph. Isildur, though a mighty warrior, fell victim to the ring's curse. In 2 of the Third Age, he was ambushed and slain by orcs at the disaster of the Gladden Fields, and the One Ring was lost for generations. This echoed the ancient doom of Hador's line, where great deeds were often entwined with sorrow. Still, the enduring strength of their bloodline persisted, waiting patiently for the moment when it would rise once more to confront the shadows of the past. Centuries passed, and the remnants of Hador's bloodline dwindled to near obscurity, hidden among the ranges of the north. Yet the destiny of the House of Hador was far from extinguished. In the waning days of the Third Age, that ancient lineage would rise again in the form of Aragorn, son of Arathorn, Elisar Teletil, both Elendil and the ancient Edain. Aragorn embodied the nobility, wisdom, and courage of his forebears. Raised in Rivendell under the watchful eye of Elrond, his fate was intertwined with the legacy of men and elves alike. But Aragorn's journey was not merely one of reclaiming a throne, it was the culmination of millennia of struggle, sacrifice, and endurance that began with the House of Hador. During the War of the Ring, Aragorn's leadership mirrored that of his ancestors. His defense of Helm's Deep, his bravery in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and his unwavering march to the Black Gate in 3019 of the Third Age reflected the unbroken spirit of Húrin and Túrin. And in his coronation as King Elisar of Gondor and Arnor, the ancient doom of his house was at last lifted, not through despair, but through hope and renewal. Aragorn's ascension to the throne of Gondor in 3019 of the Third Age was more than the crowning of a king. It was the fulfillment of a destiny long shaped by sorrow and resilience. In his reign, the echoes of the House of Hador found their redemption. Where Húrin had been shackled by Morgoth's curse, and Túrin had been ensnared by tragedy, Aragorn brought healing and renewal. His rule was marked not by the shadow of doom, but by the restoration of hope, as he reunited the long-sundered kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor, forging a new era of peace and prosperity. The marriage of Aragorn to Arwen Undomiel, daughter of Elrond, symbolized the healing of ancient divides between men and elves, a union that harkened back to the legendary bonds of the First Age. In choosing mortality for love, Arwen reflected the spirit of Lúthien, while Aragorn, descended from Elros, bridged the immortal grace of the Eldar with the enduring strength of mortal men. Through this union, the ancient sorrow of Beren and Lúthien found a new light, as their legacy of love and sacrifice was finally honored in joy rather than tragedy. Under Aragorn's reign, the shadow of Morgoth's curse was finally dispelled. The realms of men flourished, alliances with the elves and dwarves were renewed, and peace returned to Middle-earth. Yet, even in this time of healing, the memory of Hador's house was not forgotten. The tales of Húrin's defiance, Turin's tragic heroism and the enduring resilience of their kin became legends passed down through the ages. Lessons of courage and the terrible cost of defiance in the face of overwhelming darkness. The House of Hador's legacy was not one of unbroken triumph, but of enduring through adversity. They were the embodiment of the mortal struggle against forces far greater than themselves, an eternal testament to the unyielding spirit of men. Their stories remind us that true heroism is not found in victory alone, but in the strength to rise again and again, even when fate itself seems set against you. From the blood-streaked fields of Nirnaeth Arnoidiad to the shining white city of Minas Tirith, their legacy burned like a beacon in the darkness. The legacy of the House of Hador resonates with one of the most profound themes in Tolkien's legendarium, the gift and burden of mortality. Unlike the elves, who were bound to the fate of Arda until its end, the race of men was granted the freedom of death, a release from the circles of the world, gifted by Eru Ilúvatar himself. Yet this gift was often misunderstood, feared, and, at times, manipulated by dark powers. The House of Hador, through its trials and tragedies, embodied both the pain and the beauty of this mortal gift. Húrin's unyielding defiance in the face of Morgoth's torment was not merely an act of heroism. It was a mortal's refusal to be bent by the will of a being who considered himself godlike. His endurance in Angband, though wrought with unimaginable sorrow, was a testament to the indomitable will of men. Even as Morgoth sought to break his spirit through visions of his family's downfall, Húrin stood defiant, becoming a symbol of human resilience. His suffering was immense, but it served as a reminder that even the weakest race in Arda could resist the mightiest of the Valar's fallen powers. Turin's life, however, reflects the tragic consequences of the mortal struggle against doom. His efforts to escape fate only drew him deeper into its snare, illustrating the sorrow that can arise from pride and isolation. Yet, beneath the shadow of tragedy lies a deeper truth. Turin's defiance, though ultimately leading to his downfall, was also an expression of mortal freedom. He did not submit willingly to Morgoth's curse. He fought again and again, even as the world seemed to conspire against him. His life, though marked by sorrow, remains one of the most poignant examples of heroism shaped by suffering. In contrast, Aragorn's story reveals the ultimate redemption of the mortal gift. Where Turin was ensnared by pride and despair, Aragorn embraced his fate with humility and wisdom. His acceptance of mortality was not a surrender but a recognition of the beauty and purpose of life's fleeting nature. His reign symbolized not only the restoration of the kingdoms of men, but also the healing of ancient wounds carried through the bloodlines of Hador. His peaceful passing, in 120 of the Fourth Age, by his own will, was a moment of grace. A reflection of what mortality could truly mean when embraced without fear. This contrast between Turin and Aragorn is no mere coincidence. It illustrates a journey that spans the entire history of the Edain, from the tragic defiance of fate to the peaceful acceptance of mortality's gift. Through these two descendants of Hador's line, Tolkien reflects on the dual nature of human life, the struggle against destiny and the grace found in accepting it. In Aragorn, the doom of the House of Hador was finally lifted, not through great battles or defiance, but through wisdom, love, and the understanding that death is not the end, but a release beyond the confines of the world. The echoes of Hador's house lingered beyond Aragorn's reign, woven into the fabric of Middle-earth's history and memory. The strength of mortal men, their defiance against darkness, and their capacity for both sorrow and redemption became a foundation upon which the future of the world was built. The tragedies of Húrin and Turin were not in vain, for they laid the groundwork for a future where men could rise above the shadows of their past and build a new age of peace, guided by the wisdom of their ancestors and the hope of a world renewed.